Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, you can relax your eyelids. And with your eyes closed, be able to give more of your focus and attention to the sound of my voice. As you exhale, just feel that more of that tension is leaving your body. And as you breathe in, get a sense that a resourceful feeling of acceptance is going in through your nose, filling your lungs, giving you permission to fully accept every single part of you and who you are. And as you exhale, I want you to let go of any elements of a persona that isn't you. Continue to breathe in acceptance and exhale anything that you consider fake, disingenuous, artificial. Meaning that just by breathing in and breathing out, you're connecting more and more with who you are at your core. Who you are and will always be. Sometimes people go through life and they allow a label to be an identity. Sometimes this is transitory. They like a particular music artist and they identify their identity with that artist. Or they have a behavior and then that becomes their entire identity. But I want you to get your sense that there are certain things that were true when you were 5 years old, that were true when you were 10 years old, that were true when you were 20, and are true now. Universal principles that denote who you are and won't change. As you breathe in and breathe out, I want you to imagine you're in a different country far away. And I want you to imagine in that place is a training room, perhaps a gym. Perhaps there's things that you can recognize there. A punch bag, a ring, maybe some weights or some conditioning equipment. And I want you to get a sense that here in this place is where resilience is created. And what does it take in order to build resilience, if it isn't discomfort, sometimes even pain? The ability to do something difficult and allow your body to adapt and respond. Resilience in muscles is lifting a weight, allowing the muscle tissue to be damaged. But when it repairs, you're stronger than you were before. I want you to think of conditioning, perhaps bones in your body, maybe a shin, knuckles, elbows, that initially these bones are soft, fragile, but over time they can be conditioned to prepare for force. And I want you to think of the kind of ways that you could do that. If you wanted to make a bone stronger, a knuckle, a shin, a knee, I want you to think of the things that would naturally do that. And at some level, there needs to be some kind of external force. But there also has to be a period of repair and healing. And in conditioning, the force is required to create pain and discomfort, and the healing is required to become stronger. And it's only a matter of time before what caused immeasurable pain the first time causes less pain and less pain and less pain until there is no pain at all attached. So an outsider could look at that same thing and it looks like magic. It looks superhuman because they project themselves in that situation of thinking, how would I be able to deal with the same situation? I want you to connect with the idea that muscles can become stronger, bones can become tougher, but also your emotional resilience can become tougher too. I want you to think of being in that gym, and if the moment you experience pain in getting stronger, you ran away from that gym, you know that the version of you that ran away would be weaker, because you know that the training can be tough, but the toughness is what creates the strength. And I want you to think about your life in terms of emotional conditioning. There's been a time in your life where there was a consequence for being who you really were. And it requires courage to really be who you really are in the face of consequences, coercion, criticism, rejection, or humiliation. And perhaps back then, it was the right thing to do to adapt and change. But at what cost? The cost of living your life like you're someone else. You can't claim any of the successes, the glory, the good moments. They don't feel like they belong to you because it's not really you who's living that life. The only advantage by living life as a persona, as a representation of you, not you, is that it creates a shell to keep you safe, the vulnerable part of you safe. But whereas the shell gets stronger, you that's inside are just as weak. I want you to imagine that the most vulnerable part of a hermit crab leaving one shell to a new shell is the space in between. When a lobster grows, it's a painful process. Like most crustaceans, they have an exoskeleton. The shell is what keeps them safe. But in order to grow, the old shell has to fall away before their skin becomes a new shell. If a lobster could choose to not endure the discomfort, they wouldn't have the pain, but they wouldn't have the growth. I want you to tap into an idea that you can have one of two futures. You can have the future where you're living life in a safe shell. But it's a life that you're living through the persona of someone else. It's not your life. Or you can leave the shell, be 100% you, but there will be a transitory period of emotional conditioning. Some of the words will hurt, but only long enough for you to develop new strategies and ways of thinking. When you accept yourself, the words can't help. Nothing can hurt you at that point, because when you own your flaws can't be used against you. And sometimes your flaws can become assets, utilized to enhance the quality of your life. You can have a future where the real you gets to pursue life on your terms and to become emotionally resilient, to be able to deal with any situations. Or you can live life through a persona that it feels like you're being protected. But what if your shell isn't a shell to keep you safe, but a cage to keep you trapped? What if this shell that you've been hiding in is what's been keeping you small, keeping you avoiding living the life that you deserve? So you can choose to stay in the shell, or you can choose to let go of the shell and live life exactly as you are. You get to live life as yourself and no one else. You know who you are. You know what you're capable of doing. And when you let go of that shell, you get to live life authentically, congruently, forming friendships of like-minded people, building a tribe of people that get you for who you really are. In the past, it hasn't been you that's been quitting. The only part of you that quit was the persona that wasn't really you. At your core, you're not a quitter. The certainty that you seek isn't in the words and validation of others. It's within yourself. Knowing who you are, knowing what you're capable of, and knowing that whatever happens, you will either learn, grow, or benefit from any situation. And if you're willing to let go of the shell and build true emotional resilience within yourself, let me know by nodding your head. I want you to get a sense of imagining that you're trapped in a shell, maybe an oyster shell or a clam shell. And this shell has been keeping you safe, but it's been stopping you from growing. Use the power of your imagination to imagine forcing that shell open, emerging from the shell. But you emerge from the shell as who you really are. Someone that isn't scared of doing anything. Because anything that you need to do, you will either do well or you'll learn from it. The opinions of other people are none of your business. People can think whatever they think, but if they say something to you, you can decide to filter out what is useful. But you can also decide to just laugh it off, water off a duck's back. I want you to get a sense that a new dawn, a new opportunity for you to live your life as who you really are, is here now. I want you to think of all those areas of your life that used to be ridiculed or criticized. And I want you to accept every part of you, have full ownership of that. And if you decide, no one else, that it's something you'd like to change, then you have the ability to change it. But only if it's you that resonates with that feeling. I want you to take everything that's good about you and know that you can move forward in life saying, this is me. But also to realize that sometimes people will see you doing well and they will look for your vulnerabilities. Like the velociraptors in Jurassic Park, they'll look for a weakness in the fence. And in the same way that perhaps you've done this when thinking about your training or your fighting, I want you to think of your emotional vulnerabilities and to strengthen them. You can strengthen them from acceptance, from making a change. Whatever you decide to do, to turn your weaknesses into strengths, your vulnerabilities into a source of power, just allow your unconscious mind to do that. I want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine you see yourself 6 months from now, exactly as who you are. And I want you to imagine maybe someone from your childhood, maybe your father, maybe someone from school that used to criticize you. And I want you to imagine that person is criticizing, trying to ridicule the future version of you that is 100% themselves, is confident in their own skin, has accepted all parts of themselves. And I want you to imagine seeing them trying to criticize that version of you and seeing yourself unshakable, uncompromising, not willing to change just because someone else wants you to change. See yourself steadfast, full of certainty, uncompromising, unflappable, and at peace. And see that version of you treating this like a verbal fight. They're jabbing you, maybe you jab them back. You're just not bothered by it. And if you can see that version of you, that future version of you being completely fine, seeing yourself resourceful and resilient and coping in a really relaxed, secure way, just let me know by nodding your head. I want you to make adjustments to this version of you. Change the facial expression so you see them being more confident. Change their physiology so they own all of their flaws 100%. See that version of you being ridiculed or insulted, but see you being resilient, confident, strong. If you can see that future version of you handling this in a very capable, perhaps even playful way, but certainly not upset, anxious, or phased in any way, just let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And just accept that that's where you're heading towards. A version of you where you don't have to change so as not to upset other people. See a version of you that is uncompromising. You have your identity, you have your mission, and you've locked all the resources to be able to pursue it. See yourself as confident, capable, and aligned with who you are and what you're going to do. And then take that feeling and return to the present as you find yourself 100% in your body, listening to me at this moment in time. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, get a sense that all parts back in the present, listening to me right now as I count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. You will awaken feeling resourceful, motivated, confident, but most of all, you will awaken and open your eyes feeling 100% you and no one else. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.